Okay, this is Andy McNeill, and this is another edition of Free Arkansas, and I am super excited to have Bill Jones, who's the CEO of Sissy's Log Cabin and on the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, to talk to you today. Bill, how are you doing?
Well, thank you for letting me come on. I'm really excited. Lots to say, especially with the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. We have a whole lot going on, so some great things on the horizon.
Yeah, I want to get to it a little bit later, but one of the things that's been sort of interesting about what we've been doing here, most of the time we're doing stuff that's, promoting the state, but talking about various policies. And so we talk to basically CEOs and politicians. But one of the things that's really been interesting is, and I want to come back to it, but I'll just prep you for it, is that we've been having this ongoing debate about whether or not there's actually a Black Panther sightings in Arkansas or not. And so that stirs up all sorts of people who swear they've seen a Black Panther. And I'm sure just being on the Game and Fish, you hear all sorts of people tell you, like, I've 100% seen a such and such animal. But before we talk about that, I really wanted to talk about the business. Well, first off, congratulations on a really successful business. While there's all these other companies in the state that are bigger and maybe employ more people, your business is something that I think is this sort of famous boutique business in Arkansas. And I thought maybe we could start with just how it began.
Well, boutique maybe now, but it wasn't a boutique when we started. It was in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, a little 900 square foot log cabin that my mother rented for $50 a month. And it was built in 1920. The actual bathroom was on the screened-in porch on the back, and it was just a wood box. And so we had to put antifreeze in the toilet to keep it from freezing during the winter.
Did you really?
Yeah, and in the kitchen, it just had a single hydrant, and so no hot water whatsoever at all. And that's how you would wash your hands. But we came into business with her in 1984, and okay. It was just she and I, and I went to bench school after gemology school, and we just sold jewelry, and I stayed up every night till about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I actually did the repair work, like the custom jobs, all the special pieces, the rings, the bridle, everything.
Wow, I did not know that. I knew you knew a ton about the merchandise, but I didn't know you knew how to repair it as well.
I know how to repair the custom. Actually won a national design contest one time. It was a tourmaline piece, and I was at Lou and Ann's in Stuttgart, Arkansas. I don't know if you remember.
I have been there.
And I had this brainstorm. It was a beautiful tourmaline piece. Tourmaline usually forms elongated, so it's really cool. And it was green and red. And I had this idea there in the restaurant. And on a napkin, I drew this piece out and designed it and built it. And it won the national design contest.
Interesting.
More than anything is, tourmaline is what caused gemstones having magical powers. Because in the 12th century, kids were playing with tourmaline marbles, and as the sun would come up, it would heat the marbles, these tourmaline marbles, and they actually create a magnetism, and they can repel and attract things. And so that's what these marbles would rush apart on their own, and they thought that these colored stones had spirits in them. That's where all the folklore really started, a lot with that. And then in the Victorian days, men would, it forms in stick, it's just naturally how it is. Men would keep a little stick right in their pocket, and after they finished their pipe, they would heat up that tourmaline gemstone, put it in the pipe, and all the ashes would rush to the pipe, and they'd lay it down, and it would cool off, and they all fall off.
Wow, I did not know that either.
Yeah, so cool stuff in jewelry.
So you start with the one location and it slowly grows. And I think I read that it started off with not just jewelry, but other things as well. I think that I read that your mother liked, I think I've heard it like as old things, but just like antiques.
Well, Sissy started off refurnishing furniture, selling Kirby vacuums. She was the number one Kirby vacuum seller, I think, in the nation at one time. And just doing anything, to make a living. So when I came in, we were still selling furniture and had a little bit of jewelry. The jewelry we had the old wax line Tyson boxes that were kind of heavyweight. That's when I put all the jewelry in, take it home at night, and put it underneath my bed. But
You
we
did.
have a safe, and
Right.
so one day, I'll never forget, we had a roll top desk, and the top comes off, and I had to go to this lady's house upstairs above the garage. She wanted to put it there. I had to go measure. I came back. I had to deliver it, take it up the stairs, do all the stuff. Took half a day to do it, and I came back and I said, "Sissy," I always call her Sissy unless I want something. Then I call her Mom. And Sissy, we're not doing furniture anymore. This is taking way too much of our time. And, during that morning, I was way more productive selling jewelry than I was with this roll top. So that's when we kind of turned the corner on furniture and went strictly to jewelry. And from there, it was just hard to build that kind of inventory. You had to do without to be able to do it. You've got to build your profit somewhere. And so that's why all the bench work that I did at night, I did it no charge to the store. And, Sissy and I and my wife and I got married in 1985. And we just kind of did without for years and years. And you said for a time period, we were 40 years in the desert like Moses, 40 years in Pine Bluff and that log cabin before we moved. Now, we did expand that log cabin and tore it down in 1991. But and then built a little large one because we had to. The floors were falling in. It was just not safe to be there.
To Little Rock next? Is that where you went next?
We built a 10,000 square foot log cabin next to the old log cabin. And then we decided to even expand it. So we tore down the old log cabin and then expanded that log cabin. And then the next place we went was Little Rock. And it was a really interesting story of how we went there. We had Rolex and we actually had Cartier in Pine Bluff. And I got a call from my Rolex rep. And he said, I've got a Rolex for you in Little Rock if you want it. And I said, well, of course we want it. And we had to go figure out what we were going to put it. And my mother and father, Sissy and Murphy, were not really for, doing that because they didn't really want to see the family, disperse. But we had to do it. And it was such a good idea because we saw the writing on the wall. I love Pine Bluff and I live in Pine Bluff. I'm in Pine Bluff right now. But it's the economic picture was definitely lessening.
Right. Right. Well, one of the things I think about jewelry, and I don't know how you think about this from your customer base, but like there's this comedian who makes this joke. He says, they say money doesn't buy happiness, but it buys a jet ski, and everybody's really happy on a jet ski. And every time I've been in there, everybody seems happy. They may be stressed because they have to, buy it, but like it feels like, that people are, have a real personal connection with different items that they buy. Is that your experience?
Yeah, it all comes from our employees because we are fantastic people that create relationships with their clients. And when you're coming into a store and you have a relationship with your salesperson, it's a whole different feeling. People come in just to sometimes have a cocktail or a cup of coffee or whatever, just to look, and we don't have, pressure. And, one of the few things the things we always say, of course, the customer's always right, and there's a lot of good stories with that. But another one is the more inconvenienced we are, the more convenienced our customer is.
Yeah, interesting.
And that's hard to live sometimes. And how we totally live that is if you look at the front of every store we have, it'll say jewelry emergency, and it'll be a phone number underneath it. That's my phone number.
That's your number. Okay. So if somebody needs something, you're going to pick up the phone and deal with it.
Absolutely. Well, even if I'm not in Fort Smith, I'll call my manager. Even in most all the emergencies, Andy, are Sunday afternoon we're closed, and I'm in trouble, and it's my anniversary, and those are real emergencies. I really put it up there thinking a lady might have a diamond fall out or some issue with her watch or something, but have had very little of those calls. It's always the man has forgotten something and he needs to get out of this jam.
He needs it. Yeah. Listen, I've definitely been in that boat. That boat for sure. That I have definitely been in that boat. Well, one of the things I can say from being in your stores, and I'm curious just how you do this, even though like we were talking about beforehand, where I know the names of people that work there, and I think I have a pretty decent memory, but to be honest, Bill, I couldn't name other people that are employees of different other businesses. Like I can't remember the guy that sold me the car, but I can remember people that have worked there. And mainly I think I can is because they're they're just exceptional at what they do. And I'm just curious, like, how do you cultivate that and keep that?
Well, it's really interesting too because we have developed what we call a Sissy's University, and it's a combination. My son put it all together. He took all of Sissy and I's training for all those years and put it together in a series of about 900 to 1,000 videos, followed by booklet, followed by test questions, and they have to go through all of this, everything from body language to role playing to anything else you can imagine. And it was so successful in training in our store that we actually made a generic model of it, and we actually sell it to the entire jewelry industry.
Do you really?
We sure do. We created AI role playing, so you can role play with the computer, and the computer knows exactly where to lead you and how to stump you, and it will grade you at the end of the 8-minute deal to see how well you did. And it is
Interesting.
life changing because you do it about 1 or 2 times. You're like, I didn't do very good, but you do it about 10 or 12 times. It changes everything and how you present things.
You know, just to kind of double down on that, like we're involved as investors in a string of car washes. You know, these tunnels, you perhaps have gotten your car washed at one of them, and you show up and there's a person that tries to upsell you into a subscription. And we'll actually have that person with an iPad, even though there's a kiosk right there. And really what the iPad is there, of course, it shows pricing so that someone could see it a little closer. But really, we're using AI tools to listen to the salesperson. And then what we do is we record that salesperson talking, and then we train them to like how to upsell it a little bit better. So I definitely see how that, like what you're doing, definitely works.
Well, changing 1 in 10 is going to change the volume of that car wash greatly.
It does. It just changes it. You know, I'm curious about a couple different pieces of jewelry that I'd like to know about, just sort of a story perspective. So, tell me about your mother's guardian angel pin. Tell me the story about that.
Well, first of all, we start out every store with a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
We're a Christian-based organization. And Sissy's still a guardian angel. We took it and remade a ring or two from my nana, which her mother, into this guardian angel that she wears here all the time. And it's just something that's very sentimental to her. It's got a big marquee in the middle of it, and it's just something that it's been amazing. And you wouldn't believe too how many times she's lost it, and it's shown back up.
Really? Well, I saw a picture of it.
Like on the doorstep.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's a really cool story. Did you have anything to do with designing this Heart of Arkansas brooch?
I did it. It was me and Christo Kiefer. How that all happened was my son Joe, which that's a whole other story. He is our manager in Jonesboro, and his name is Joe Cook. Have you ever seen The Blind Side?
I have.
Well, he went to the movie and came back and said, "Hey, you got to see this movie because it's just like our life." And
Was it really? Okay.
And so that's a whole other story. But he called me one day, and he was in Jonesboro, and he says, "Hey, this gentleman has got this rough cut diamond, or not rough cut, but a rough diamond from Murfreesboro, and he's wanting us to recut it." So we ran the specs on it, what it would recut to. And I called him and I said, "Sir," I said, "are you interested in selling this? Or are you interested in actually recutting it and wearing it?" He goes, "No, I don't want to wear it or give it to my wife. I want to sell it." I said, "Well, it would mean a lot more to me if we bought it rough. I don't want to cut it. I don't want to do anything." So we got all the paperwork, established that it was from Murfreesboro, right at a 5 carat. It was really a good color, G color, which is why they don't mine diamonds in Murfreesboro, because everything else is like D is pure white, Z is pure yellow. All that stuff is usually RSTUV, that range. So it's not mineable and won't pay for itself. So we bought the diamond, and then Christo Kiefer and I got together, and we wanted to do something special. Got the governor involved, and she came out, and the three of us sat down, and we came up with this idea of a brooch. We wanted something that was going to represent Arkansas, something that the governor perpetually or the first lady could wear to really show off what we have here in Arkansas, which is the only diamond mine in the United States. So it's a rare thing to have that. And we, used the uncut diamond in the middle, and it kind of flows out. And we used all multicolored diamonds, browns and greens, all the different colors. as showing as lava, and it ends at the end with baguette diamonds that were icy, where the lava comes down to the sea.
That is awesome. What a great story. What a great idea too. Is that because there's no diamonds like here, or it's just cheaper to mine them somewhere else?
Well, it's not so much that, it's just that they've got to be the right quality of diamond. But people don't understand, how long do you think it's been since a diamond has been formed in the Earth's surface? Just take a guess, Andy. Most
Ooh,
people think it's happening right now.
I don't know, like a million years.
900 million years ago is the last diamond ever formed in the Earth's surface. There
Wow.
has been heat and pressure. Most people think they're being formed right now, okay, but they're not being formed at all. And most diamonds are anywhere from 900 million to 2 billion years old. And so there's a
Wow.
limited amount of diamonds. And De Beers put out, you can go on the internet. I went on the other day, and they said we have about 18 years of diamond production left in the world, because there's a very limited amount of them. And that's why you're seeing some of these synthetics come on. But you're also going to see these natural diamonds over the next 20 years become very valuable. And I easily would predict that my kids will be buying and selling used diamonds
Really?
in the future.
There's other things that are also interesting how they change. I want to talk about watches for a second. This has been a few weeks ago, but there's a podcast called Acquired, and Acquired just tells the history of companies. And one of the companies that I listen to is the history of Rolex. And so I listened to this history of like mechanical watches, this is going back to the early 1900s, but the difference between like guys that were doing the mechanical pieces and the front facing, and just all these different companies that come about. And it tells the story, the things that they did. And you get to the 70s, and all of a sudden you get things like that Casio electronic watch that sort of begins to make a lot of changes in the watch industry. And I ended up sort of like understanding Rolex from a very different perspective, where it sort of fits in the marketplace. And I'm just curious, like, if we could go back from when you started it, like with your mother in the 80s up to now, how is watches and men's items changed?
Well, tremendously. And Rolex, you have to understand what Rolex is. You have to understand the story behind it, because there's not a watch company in the world that has a history like Rolex does. And I don't mean a normal history. I mean a history that's going to really kind of blow your mind if you've not heard this, or your viewers have not heard it. But Rolex, Mr. Wilsdorf, when he started it, he was an orphan. And before he died, he did this Wilsdorf Foundation, and Rolex was left to the Wilsdorf Foundation. So it is a nonprofit. And
Yep.
that's why nobody can compete with them, is because they're not for profit. They don't have shareholders, stockholders, or anything. And it's got two functions: make the finest watch in the world, no matter what it costs. And the remainder of the profits are given to orphans in Europe. So that's why nobody can compete with them, because they're not trying to pay out shares of stock. So the things that they do and what they will work with, like the 904L stainless, the hardest stainless in the world. Nobody else uses this because it breaks down the machinery too much. I mean, the way their sapphire crystals are done, anything about that watch is the ultimate best. It's the pinnacle of all watches. And that's what we've really seen with Rolex since the 80s, is how it's matured. And they've also changed from an older Swiss company to a more modern Swiss company with the new, the green bezeled subs, and the left hand stem. And then COVID came about, and they have also been cutting their supply chain way down. Okay. They were over 2,000. I think now they're under 700, and they're continuing to lower and lower the number of people that can actually sell Rolex. And it's just become a hot commodity. I mean, it's really difficult because if you wanted to buy a watch, it might take me 6 months to 8 months to get you one.
That's right. Interestingly, on the Rolex, like, I have one, and I bought it because it was the Coca-Cola one, and my father worked at Coca-Cola, and I just happened to see it one day, and someone had told me, like, that's rare. It's hard to see one of those because they just didn't make a lot of those ones. And of course, I don't know that, but of course, I had never seen one a lot. I saw a lot of the ones that are the Pepsi, but yeah, I think that's it's a really interesting brand.
Well, what
Yeah.
really has turned it on the side, and it's happened with other watches too. But I can sell you that Coca-Cola watch, brand new for say X number of dollars, and you can go take it and sell it for 50 to 80% more than what I sold it to you for. So that's why
Yeah.
we have to be so concerned about who we're selling them to, because we don't want these watches to get flipped out into the internet, and it doesn't look good to us or Rolex.
Yeah. Here's my last question. Then I want to talk about Game and Fish. I'm really curious this other little piece about how you do this. Throughout my life, when I've talked to different people about jewelry, it's a little bit like everybody has a guy, like I'll meet someone, they go like, oh, I've got this guy. And he's, and I think that's because it's this trustful relationship. I started trying to think like, what do I think about Sissy's when I think about it? And I really came down to like, I just trust you guys. I'm just curious if that's something you guys understand, or, like, okay, we want people to, and is that an element of how you even think about your customers?
Well, it's sacred to us, I can tell you that. And one of our most important statements that we make to all of our employees is, in any situation, I say, you just do the right thing. It might cost you a lot of money, it might be costing me a lot of money, but within reason, you do the right thing. That's why when we ever have an issue or problem, the number one question we ask the client is, what would you like us to do about it?
Yeah.
And so often it puts people on the backwards, like, well, I'm not used to anybody asking me that. But do the right thing, and it just continue to do it and build a clienteling, and trust is something that has to be built.
Well, I think you guys do a wonderful job. I mean, it's one of those things when I go in there, I feel like if I were to ask you a question or your staff about a particular ring or piece of jewelry, I feel like I'm getting a straight answer. There's just a level of trust, that I can't say I always feel that way if I happen to encounter someplace else.
Isn't it easy it is to just know that when people are just lying to you or not telling the truth, or making up an answer just to tell you? I mean, our people, if they don't know something, they'll immediately come to somebody else, because we've got a lot of people there that know it, and there's no reason to do it. And in this day and time with this right here, anybody can find out anything.
That's right. It gets into this thing about like, I have to have this belief that knowledge is real. Like, you know more about jewelry and watches than I do, right? And so I can go look at it really quick on ChatGPT, but I can't just step into the same knowledge that you have without the same experiences. But I have to have this level of trust. And so anyway, I think that you guys do a great job at that. So
a funny story about that. One of my buddies inherited his grandfather's watch, and he and his father were so excited. They thought they had this Rolex, and they asked me to come down to the dealership. And I walked into the office, and 20 feet away, I saw it on the table, and I said, "It's not real." He goes, "You hadn't even touched it yet. What do you mean it's not real?" Like, it's just not real. I can tell you right now.
They probably didn't want to have to hear that, but it's better than being told like, "Oh yeah, that's really going to make a lot of money," and then like, "Yeah, no."
Well, he was a very good friend of mine, so I could be that way.
Bill, have a great day. Appreciate your time today, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.